Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video, we will look at
the structure of the brain and how the brain can be looked at. So the brain is the most complex organ in the body, right? It's about 3 pounds and it's where we interpret or perceive all the things from our senses. It assembles messages in a way that's meaningful for us and can store that information in the form of memories. The brain controls speech, thought, memory, movement. It also controls autonomic things such as heartbeats. So if we go and look at the different parts of the brain, so the thalamus is the structure lying deep within the brain, and it has several important functions. So this thalamus is involved in sensory and motor signal relay and regulation of consciousness in sleep. Aside from the sense of smell, all other sensory processes involve the thalamic nucleus receiving sensory signal, which is then directed to the relevant cortical areas. The thalamus also plays a role in controlling the motor systems of the brain, which are responsible for voluntary movement and coordination. The cerebral hemisphere is one half of the cerebellum, so the part of the brain that controls muscle functions and also controls speech, thought, emotions, reading, writing and learning. The right hemisphere controls muscles on the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls muscles on the right side of the body. The cerebral cortex is divided lengthways into 2 cerebral hemispheres connected by the corpus callosum. Traditionally, each of these hemispheres have been divided into 4 lobes, so frontal, parental, temporal and optical. The midbrain is the portion of the central nervous system associated with vision, hearing, motor control and temperature regulation. The midbrain is the forwardmost portion of the brainstem and is associated with vision and other sensory perception. The principal regions of the midbrain are the tensium, the cerebral aqueduct, the tegmentium and the cerebral peduncles. The hypothalamus produces many of the body's essential hormones. So the hormones from the hypothalamus govern physiological functions such as temperature regulation, thirst, hunger, sleep, mood, sex drive, and the release of other hormones from other parts of the body. This area of the brain houses the pituitary gland and other glands. So damage to the hypothalamus may cause disruptions in the body temperature regulation, growth, weight, sodium and water balance in the body, milk production when in lactation, and sleep cycles. The pituitary, so this is part of the endocrine system and produces critical hormones which are needed throughout the body for a range of different functions. So the pituitary gland is referred to as the master gland because it regulates and monitors many bodily functions through the use of hormones. If the pituitary gland does not produce enough growth hormone in children, they have a permanently short stature, for instance. If it doesn't produce enough follicle stimulating hormone or leukocytin hormone, this might lead to infertility. The pons is a message station between several areas of the brain. It helps relay messages from the cortex to the cerebrum. So without the pons, the brain would not be able to function because messages would not be able to be transmitted or passed along from one part to another. It also plays a key role in sleep, dreaming, where REM sleep, or sleep in statu, where dreaming is most likely to occur. So the pons is also considered as a portion of the hindbrain that connects the cerebral cortex with the medulla oblongata. The medulla carries out and regulates life-sustaining functions such as breathing, swallowing and heart rate. So the medulla oblongata, or the medulla, is a long stem-like structure which makes up part of the brainstem. It is anterior and partially inferior to the cerebellum. It is a cone-shaped neural mass responsible for autonomic, which are involuntary, functions ranging from vomiting to things like sneezing. If your medulla oblongata becomes damaged, this may lead to respiratory failure, paralysis, or loss of sensation. The spinal cord connects the peripheral nervous system to the brain. So information reaching the spinal cord through sensory neurons are transmitted up to the brain. The spinal cord is a long, fragile, tube-like structure that begins at the end of the brainstem and continues down almost to the bottom of the spine. So the spinal cord consists of nerves that carry out incoming and outgoing messages to and from the brain. The cerebellum receives information from sensory systems, the spinal cord and other parts of the brain, and then regulates motor movements. So the cerebellum coordinates voluntary movements such as posture, balance, coordination, speech. If it's damaged, this can lead to a loss of coordination. It can stop people from being able to judge distances correctly. It can cause an inability to control movement, and it might go and lead on things like tremors or staggering when walking. So brain imaging techniques allow doctors and researchers to view actively or problems within the human brain without invasive neurosurgery. There are a number of accepted safe techniques for doing this. So RMI is a technique for measuring brain activity. It works by detecting changes in blood, in oxygenation and flow that occur within different parts. So when the brain area is more active, it consumes more oxygen, and to meet this increase in demand, blood flow increases to that area. So fMRI can be used to produce a map showing different parts of the brain that are involved in these particular mental processes at any one time. CT scans build up a picture of the brain based on differential absorption of X-rays. During TT scans, the subject lies on a table that slides in and out of a hollow cylindrical apparatus. An X-ray source then rides on a ring around the inside of that tube, which is its beam is aimed at the head. So after passing through the head, the beam is sampled by one of the many detectors that is in line with the machine's circumference. Images made using X-rays depend upon the absorption of the beam as it passes through the tissue. So things like bone and hard tissue absorb by X-rays, or absorb X-rays well, while air, water absorb very little. And soft tissue, so things like the brain, will be somewhere in between. PET scans use trace amounts of short-lived radioactive material to map functional processes in the brain. So when the material undergoes radioactive decay, the position of the emitted radiation can be detected. So areas of high radioactivity are associated with brain activity. An EEG is used as a measurement of electrical activity within the brain by recording from electrodes placed on the scalp. The resulting traces are known as an electrocardiograph, and the representation of an electrical signal from a large number of neurons can be shown. EEGs are frequently used in experimentation because the process is non-invasive, and the EEG is capable of detecting changes in electrical activity in the brain on a millisecond level. It is one of the few techniques available that has such a high temporal resolution.
Thanks for watching.